Oh, wait. Funny you should mention her
I
name.
knew
We're up to
that.
number two. We're up to number two. This was going to be controversial because in most people's lists, or a lot of them, she would be number one. But I took a little bit of a left turn on number one. So let's go to number two. This is Jen McCabe. And, she was on the stand for, 2 full days? Does that sound right?
At least.
Maybe it was 2.5. Anyway, this is
so.
cross-examination. Let me make sure I've got this queued up to the right spot. She's a doozy. Double check here. Hold on, stand by. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. So again, coming in at number 2, and she was really one of the first, substantive witnesses. Carrie was on before her, but obviously didn't have the level of information that the master manipulator had, right? So Jen McCabe, this is right in the middle of her cross-examination, I believe. Here we go.
Clinging to life. You weren't doing chest compressions at 6:07 and 6:08, were you?
I was walking over when I was calling.
You were calling your sister on the phone, weren't you, Mr. K?
I was calling them to see if they would come out, but I was going right over to work on him.
And you could have walked 25 feet to the front door, walked in the house, and screamed for Brian Albert to come out and help you in those precious seconds and minutes, couldn't you?
That would have taken me away from helping John, getting Kerry blankets, giving him compressions.
And making those 2 very important phone calls at 6:07 and 6:08 that you say were not answered. Correct?
They were not important phone calls. I tried to call my sister, and then I focused on John.
They were not important phone calls, but they were important enough for you to make while John is clinging to life right there in front of you, right?
As I was walking over, I called to see if she would answer.
And she didn't answer. Let's talk about that. She didn't answer according to you.
So if we're going to talk about it, we're beyond the luncheon break.
Lunch, everybody.
And I'll wrap it.
Okay.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
She didn't answer the phone, did she?
No, she didn't.
So you have a situation where a man is laying dead or dying in the front yard of your sister's house. You see nothing in terms of life inside the house. Lights aren't coming on. They're not getting up. They're certainly not coming outside, right?
They were sound asleep.
They weren't coming outside, were they?
Because they were asleep.
You didn't know if they were asleep. All you knew was there was a severely injured man on the front lawn of their house, and your sister didn't answer the phone, not once, but twice, correct?
Correct. She didn't answer the phone.
Did you think your sister might have been in peril? Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to think that they weren't okay.
You had no reason to believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying on their lawn, and your sister's not answering the phone. And nobody is coming out to the chaos of Karen Reed screaming on the front lawn. You didn't think there was some reason to believe they could have been in peril?
I didn't, because your client was screaming she hit him. She had a cracked taillight. She was crying she hit him. I didn't, but my focus... Can I finish, please?
You had solved the crime right then and there. You solved the whole case.
No, I didn't. I knew John never came in the house, so I had no concern for anyone's safety inside the house.
The reason you didn't go inside the house is because you knew better. You knew better. You knew she wasn't in peril. You knew that Brian Albert wasn't in peril. You weren't worried at all about them, were you?
I was not worried at all because something happened on the front lawn that had nothing to do with anything inside that house.
You weren't worried about them at all because you knew what really happened, didn't you?
At that moment, I didn't know that he was hit by a vehicle and there was taillight found next to him.
All right, Jerry.
Yeah.
Oh, we go get lunch. Let's go have lunch.
God.
Yeah, and now, so Jackson is like, 2 more questions, be done with this. He's forced into this box by the judge, and he did an amazing job. And you can hear even at the end, Olivia, what do you make of this? She's cramming as many bad facts into these last couple of answers as she possibly can. Karen Reed said, "I did it," and there were taillight pieces found on the lawn. I mean, she's combining all of this series of events that played out over a long time to somehow justify not knocking on the door of her sister-in-law's house, who has the first responder husband, because she's so concerned about John O'Keefe.
I mean, it sounds like textbook consciousness of guilt, and like, look over here, not at me. kind of like claiming that somebody else asked you to Google the incriminating thing. But yeah, I mean, no taillight was found. Like, you didn't see any taillight there next to his body when you were apparently trying to help save him, which was also a new fact at this trial.
Yeah. And that would have been
you know,
interesting if Alan had focused on that, but I blame
Mhm.
Judge Canoni for that, for leaning on him to get done. Lunch is
I
here,
know.
because that would have been a perfect follow-up. Well, what do you mean the taillight pieces were found there? Don't you know they weren't found until this day, this day, this day, and this day? How did you know that night
Right.
that there were taillight pieces found around his body, if they ever were? How did you know that? And how did that affect your decision not to go knock on the door of your
Right.
sister-in-law's?
It's a really good point
yeah.
you make, because
It's
yeah,
a
the
mess.
question she's being asked is like why she wasn't worried about her sister in the house. And it's at that time period, I mean, the taillight pieces weren't, no pieces were found in the morning. The
Right.
first time any
Yeah.
of them were found was at 5:45 or sometime thereafter. So it's like, how would that even factor into any of your decision making at that time in the morning? And of course, there's the iconic moment from Alan Jackson, and your sister's not answering the phone.
Yes,
Like,
he's.
I have, I just
Yeah.
love it. I mean, I have this trial like memorized in little sound bits like that. But um, the other thing that I thought was very interesting about that whole time period in the morning is, I mean, first of all, it's just crazy how Jen diverted them to go back to the house that Karen had just left, that John wasn't at, which is why Karen left the house. And
Yeah.
it strains
Good point.
credulity to me that the reason for that was, oh well, we just wanted to double check or whatever, because you could have called the daughter, who was at the house, who had, Karen originally called via her phone because she had Jen McCabe's phone number that morning. She was still at the house. You could have called her. And why would your priority be to go to the one place that's safe and indoors and warm if there's a possibility that someone's outside during this blistering cold snowstorm? But more importantly, why wasn't Jen nonstop calling Nicole, Brian, their house phone number when they're on the way to 34 Fairview? Like, think about it. If you're going to go drive over to someone's house that is your sister's house, when you're urgently looking for somebody, wouldn't you be calling them on the phone, like trying to get them to answer the phone, see if they'll pick up, because it would be a lot more efficient. Like, hey, do you have any idea where John is? We can't
Yeah.
find John anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. At
And
that point, it's
Right.
just, can you help? We're trying to find out where he is. After the fact, once they get there, it's, can you help? We found him.
right. And it's she can't even say that she wasn't cognizant, like that she could be doing that, because she called Nicole at 5:07 a.m. and had a 38-second conversation with her that was never disclosed before. And then there's two other calls at 6:07 and 6:08 a.m. to Nicole Albert. So clearly she realizes that like she can communicate with someone by making phone calls. You would think that she would be nonstop trying to reach them or get someone to pick up the phone if they're driving over to 34 Fairview. Kind of like how Karen was nonstop calling John, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And Alan just encapsulated the whole thing. When we replayed this clip and posted it as one of our day's events, I just put the caption on there, "She knew," because that's what he said, and that's what
Right.
resonated with the jury. That's why you didn't go in
Exactly.
the house. You knew exactly what happened to this guy on the front lawn. You didn't need to go in the house. You didn't need to wake up or bother anybody there, because you all knew
Exactly.
what happened.